Okay, guys. So today we'll be looking at UI itself. So, but you can't start UI design without getting to know the different elements. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Oh, okay. So you can't start any UI design without knowing the elements that you use for it. So remember when we started talking, all this while what we've been doing is UX. We've been focused on UX. We've been focused on user experience, but now we'll be diving into UI itself. And UI is user interface design. So it refers to all the visual elements you can see on a digital product. In our last class, we looked at low fidelity and mid fidelity wireframe, and we did not focus on anything. We were just focused on how we get inspiration and how we are designing it, or how we are going to put it in place. We did not focus about the colors and all of that. So this is just similar to when you're building a house, right? If you're building a house, the first stage where you use cement and block, and you don't focus about the paintings, the interiors and all of that. But the point when you now start using, before it was just normal ceiling, right? But now we have POP. But all of those things still don't account for the how fine the house would be. It's just you building the basic first. So once you're done, then you now start putting furnitures, you now start putting fittings and all of that. That's what will now make it a complete house. Can you stay in a house that they've not completed? That means colors and all of that. Yes, you can. That's painting and all of that. Yes, you can, but it's not going to give you that same feeling. So you can still use your wireframe, right, to allow your users to test what they want to test, but it still doesn't make it a complete work. So that's what UX is. UX is mostly about the looks and the style of what you're trying to do. So now what makes a good UX? There are things that will make a UI design to be good. One is usability and the other one is delightfulness. Now, once people are able to use your products, they know where buttons it, they know where all of this thing is. You have a very good product. Then the next one is delightfulness. People should be able to like your product. They should be able to be happy. I don't know. There's a particular product called your wall, right? Um, I have an account with your wall, but I've never put in money or anything. The only reason why I had to download your wall is because of how fine their user interface is. Your wall's user interface is so fine. That was the reason why I had to download it. So there are so many people that would download your products because they like how the UI is. They like how fun it is, how fine it is. So that's why some persons will get to download your app. I don't know if you've heard this saying, sometimes looks is what will attract you to someone, but what is going to keep you is the person's character. Now, people judge easily. So for instance, when someone sees somebody with dreaded hair, the person is on dread or the person is on tinted hair, the first thing that comes to your mind, or the person wears baggy jean, all of the first thing that comes to your mind is this person is into fraud, or this person is into fraud, right? Without getting to get to know the person, it's because of the look. The look has already sold the person. So your look should make sense in the point that people would, even if your product is not doing it, people should first of all download it. And that's why you see it is very important that you work on both your UX and your UI, because it's not enough for people to like your designs and come in and then it's not usable. It's going to be so annoying. So there are different things that you get to do when you're designing. So the first one we've talked about this one, which is the screen. You need to know the screen that you are designing for. We have for mobile, have for web, and we have for desktop. If you're trying to design If you're trying to design for, let's say, you're trying to design for phones, you know that you get to use the phone screen. But then if you're designing for mobile, for web, you would have to do two other screens. You have to do the web mobile and you have to do the iPad or the tab. You know why? We have different websites that most times we don't visit with our laptops. 90% of people in this class, if I send a link now, the first thing you use to open that link is your phone. So to tell you that even when you have websites, there should be a mobile view. So for any device that you're viewing it for, you should still be able to use it. That's the reason why most persons don't like designing web. Because if you start designing web, right, you need to make it responsive for each screens. So first off is for you to choose your screen. And to choose your screen, you have to use the frame on Figma to select what you want to do. So we've talked about this. The next one is the position. If you go to Figma, right, you would always see that position, X and Y position. You can decide to, when you're working with your object, especially rectangles, circles, and all of that, you give it different positions, right? So it's the same thing. Then rotation. Let me open Figma so that we can be looking at them one after the other. Sorry, guys. All right, so sorry, guys, I had to take something. Okay.
Listing for automations.
Okay, so this is Figma. Oh, this is Figjam. All right, for the first thing we talked about is a frame, right? So this is for mostly people that are just joining today. So you get a frame. Now, after a frame, you have different elements that you get to work. So let's say I pick up my rectangle tool. I would always see my X and Y axis. So you can decide to change those values by giving them any value you want to give them. So the value X states how far the element is from the left-hand side of your screen, while the Y value states how far the element from the top of the screen. So it's mostly, this is Y, this is X. Anytime you see, so let's say I put I put this in this. Now you can see that my Y value is 138. If I decide to make it 300, can you see that it went down? So the X value means how far this side is away from the screen. So sorry, the Y. So for the X, it's the spacing is 87. Let's say I want it to go towards this side. I think I would have to make it, let's say 40. Yeah, 40, 20. You can see how it's moving. So that's basically X and Y value. Now, the next thing we get to do is the rotation, where you can rotate different element rigid from 0 to 360. So you know what they say about rotation. Let me use a line to explain this. For instance, let's say I have this line and I want to rotate this. This is automatically on minus 90. If I want it to be 180, I can make it 180. 180 will change it. So same thing as this. This is on 0. If I want to change it to 180, it doesn't do anything. Let's say 90. Can you see 90? And then 360. Thereabouts. So you can rotate 45, 60. Let's see 45. I think 45 will change it. Yeah. 45, 60, and all of that. So all of these elements are important when you now start doing UI, because you get to be putting them. Then we have what we call the fill. Under the fill, right, we have the color, we have the gradients, we have image, and then we have gradient overlay. Now, this is the sample. Let's say I put this, let me put this back to 0. Because now we'll start dealing with colors. So you can be using different colors. Now, if you notice, this is already on the field, first off. It's on solid. That's the normal field. So any color I give to this, for instance, it's just one color. But if I push it to the next side, which is gradient, you'd see that I have two color aspects. Then I have this notes. I can move this to any part of my screen. I can move it to any part of my screen. So for this now, I can decide to say, okay, I want to have a different color. Can you see? Then you can reduce the opacity. For this, the opacity is on 0. But as I increase it, you can see that it's changing. I can still blend this and then get a blue and something gradient. So instead of using just one color, for those of you that know how to mix colors very well, you can decide to use two different colors to arrive your point or to get what you want to get out of a design. And then we have the image, where you can easily just select an image and put it. Now, the last one is the gradient and the image. So I can have an overlay, right? That's color and image. I can have this image and I don't want this image to work like that. And I want to add a color to it. I can decide to put a color on this, let's say black, and then bring it on top of this image. And so this is what we call overlay. So then if I reduce this, you would see that I can see the black in my image. So most times for most websites where you see a picture in the background, you mostly use an overlay for it. So you can use a gradient overlay if you want, or you can use, this is a gradient overlay, or you can use a solid overlay, depending on what you want to achieve. This is now left for you. So this is a gradient overlay, while we have the solid overlay. So are we together? Is there any question? Am I too fast?
Yes, you are.
Oh, I'm too fast. Okay.
Yes, you are too fast. From after you duplicated the photo, then trying to put the black on
Okay,
the.
let me
Yes, thank
start
you.
that. Please, if I'm too fast, you people should just let me know. Sometimes I tend to talk fast. Okay, so this is the image, right? I have an image. Let me go back to creating my rectangle and putting my image. So I have my image here. Let's say I want this rectangle. Where is the rectangle? I have the rectangle, right? And I decide to put image. So different ways to put image. We've talked about it before. The first way, you can come to color and change it to image here and get your image. Or better still, you can still come to shape and you see place image / videos. Any of this process. Or sometimes you can just copy the image, then come on the frame and paste it. It will still work. So let's go back to this. Then I choose the image for my laptop and it is in. So the next thing is either you can draw a rectangle on it back this way, or better still. So I don't like drawing the rectangle. So I will just duplicate this, Control D. So I have two of it. So I'll just come to fill and change it to color. So, and then I'll bring it in here. So for overlay, you get to choose the color you want to use as your overlay. Say I want to use this color, right? The next thing to do is to reduce, where you see 100, you can reduce it from here, or you reduce it from here. So you've seen that I've given my image another fill. This is for solid. You can still do the same with gradients. So you can decide to have two colors, mix it with two colors instead of just
Sorry,
color. Okay, you have a question.
Yes, because I'm actually doing it as you're doing it. So after you changed the duplicated one to fill to another color that you want to place on that image. So what
Yeah.
did you do?
So then you just reduce the opacity. So this is it. Let's say this is the color. And the opacity would always be on 100, right? So you reduce it to any. So until you see, until you've achieved what you want to achieve, then you can leave it. You see that this is on 31, 28. This is how it's looking. But if I go back to 100, this is how it's looking. If I go back to, if I just move it, you would see. So it's also dependent on what you want to achieve with the overlay. So let's say I want to. So have you gotten it?
Yes, I have. Thank you.
So you can still do the gradient color for it, or you can just do the solid color for it.
Okay.
So we'll talk about gradients in this class. We'll talk about gradient, so you get to see what it is. But this is how you can make an overlay. Which website can I remember that has an overlay? Once I see it down. So I don't know if you've seen website like this. Let me do something simple. Sometimes you get to see website like this, so I'll just do anything I like. You get to see website like this. Let's say car image, for instance. Okay, I like this image, right? Something like this. You might have seen website like this where you have this, you can see it. And then sometimes for images like this, you might want to write on it. But can you write on this? If you write on this, it will not be fine. So let's say I want to write, this is my car website. I'm using any content, right? This is my car website. And then I increase this to say 70, or I increase this to say 50. Let me use 50. And then I have two lines. No, 70 still is better. And this is on line spacing. I reduce the line spacing to say 60 or 70. And then I make this bold. So this is one. Let me try to play this thing. Let me try to play it. Okay. So the reason why this is showing like this is because it's on mobile phone. Yeah, it's on mobile phone. So you just change it from mobile. So you just go to prototype under device, change it to none, and you will be able to see it. So this is it. Can you see that this is not nice? If you design like this, everybody will know that you're a novice. So how do we now change this design, or how do we improve it? So this is what I will do. Let me show you the two. If I want to improve on this design, I will just uh I'll just get a rectangle, just what we're talking about, and I'll cover the rectangle. I'll cover this. And then let me bring my text on top of the rectangle. So I'll just drag the text and put it on top of the rectangle here. This is the rectangle, this is the text. Before, the text was inside the rectangle, so you can't see it. But if I bring it on top, you'll be able to see it. So I can now add the color I want to use for this. Sorry, I went to add on the wrong thing. So I can now add the color of my rectangle to say be black, or any color, then I'll reduce the opacity. Now, this plus the first one, Which do you think is better? This with an overlay. You can still see the car, but the text is now boldly appearing. So these are scenarios where we use overlays to work. Hope we got it.
Yes.
All right. So the next one is border, right? We use border in our designs. So I have a rectangle, and then for me to add a border, it is called stroke in Figma. So you can see it here, stroke, and you can just add stroke to it. The where you see these numbers, you can increase it to 50. You can increase it to any number of your choice. Let's say I want to add 5. Now, if you check again, you see a drop down. So you can also reduce the opacity of your stroke. You can reduce the opacity. Reducing the opacity means you're reducing, instead of using a particular color, maybe you want to use gray and you don't know the color of gray and you use black. I can reduce this black to turn to gray. Can you see it? By just reducing the number. So that's what we do with opacity. Then you have different kinds of strokes. You have the center strokes. You might not even know what it works. You have the inside stroke, and then you have the outside stroke. So sometimes you don't even feel all of these things until you start designing. Now, also for stroke, you can see that we have another line stroke close to it, which is called the sides. So if I click on it, you see that this stroke is applied to all parts. But if I click on top, it will just be applied to top. If I click on bottom, it will just be applied to bottom. If I click on left, it will be applied to just left. And if I click on right, it will be applied to just right. And then if I click on custom, I'll now be able to add sides that I want. If I want the left and the bottom, I should be able to add it. You can see. And this one 0. So that's what you can do with all of this, or you can just change it back to all. So this is it for stroke. So to get it back, if we want to do it back, how do you get a stroke? You just need to turn on your plus under the stroke, turn it on, and then add the number. If you want it to be 80, you add it depending on what you want to achieve, and then you can still do the stroke per sides. Can add the strokes per sides anywhere that you want to add it. Then if you don't want it again, you want to remove it totally, you can use the minus. But then if you don't want to use the minus, you can use this I to hide it, toggle on and off. What this I does for you, anywhere you see I, just know that it means you're trying to hide the thing. You've not deleted it, it's still there, you're just hiding it. But anywhere you use the minus, know that you've removed it totally. So next one is the border radius. Border radius. What is border radius? Border radius is mostly how rounded you want the edge of the shape to be. You can use it for only shapes. You can't use it on text. Now I have this. You can see that there's something we call, this is not friendly. In design, there's something we call friendliness, right? Sometimes you say this shape is too sharp. It's not friendly. It's what you can use to help or solve that is what we call the border radius. So I have this is 0. If I make this 30, you would see that it will be rounded. If you can increase it, I think, to almost, let me confirm, is it 1,000? Yeah, you can increase it to as high as 1,000, and then you can reduce it. So notice that once you have any shape, right, and you bring your mouse close, you'll see all of these things. This radius, once you start applying radius, you would see this. So you can use your mouse, instead of typing the numbers, you can use your mouse to drag in and out of it. So that's it for adding corner radius. Are we together? Do we get it? Or I should
Yes,
go back?
yes, yes, we are getting.
Okay. So the next one is shadow. When you're working, right, you get to work with shadows. Shadow makes your design looks finer. So sometimes you have whites on whites and you want the other one to be a bit elevated. You won't want to be elevated. You can use shadows to do all of those things. Now, for every shadow, right, we have the X, the Y, the blur, and the opacity. Now, let me show you how to add shadow. You come here. So in Figma, if you want to add shadow, if you want to add border, what is it called? Outline, it's called stroke. If you want to add shadow, it's called effect. So you just, for anything you want to add, right, you always use the plus and the minus button. So once I click on the plus, I can add the shadow. Now we have different types of shadow. We will not talk about this one until we go further. We have inner shadow, we have blur shadow, we have drop shadow, and we have background blur. We have layer blur, background blur, we have drop, and we have inner. So in when we go further, we'll get to know what each of these represents. Now, under shadow, once you click on shadow and you have it, you'd see this shape. So one of the ways to learn Figma very well is anytime you turn on something, right, try to check on each of the buttons to see what it entails. Now, if I come here and I click on this button close to it, you see that you have the X, you have the Y, you have the blur, and you have the spread, and then you have what we call the color parts. So you can add, if you add different numbers, let's say I give the X the X value, you know that the top is is it the top? No, the left, this side is mostly the X, here is the Y. So let's say I want the X to be somehow 8. You would see that the X, this immediately showed us the X part. Let's say I want the Y, there will be shadow on the top or bottom, on the bottom. So for shadow, the X, instead of the left and right, it is, I think, right and left, right and down, something like that. So once you are able to activate it, and then what is the blur for? The blur is how you want your shadow to be. So you can add different values. You can see that I just added blur to this shadow. What it did is it elevated the left and the right and added the blur feature to it. So you can add numbers. When we get down, when we get to where we talk about shadows in full, you get to know how to apply very good shadows, because we have soft and hard shadows. And then within the number range, you would always use to get good shadows. So that's it. I can turn it off right here. So you can see layer blur. What is layer blur? For layer blur, right? So for you to be able to add layer blur, your blur value should be around 0 to 250. So you'll be able to add layer blur to anything you're doing. And then background blur, right? Yeah, any object that has a background, you can blur it. So let's say this rectangle you are looking at has a background blur. So you can use background blur to do something like a glass effect. Can mostly use it to do like a glass effect and all of that. So how do we get visual hierarchy? Sorry guys, give me I'll get back to that. Okay, so visual hierarchy, right? As a designer, right, most times you need to make something focus on another. So that's what we call visual hierarchy. You need to make some elements more important than the other elements so that it's going to grab users' attention. So let's take, for instance, right, if you see any graphic design, let me go to Instagram and show you something. Do I have an account here? Okay. Okay. So I can't really log into my account, but let me just look for Sterling Bank, for instance. Okay. Looking at this design, what do you think, or where do you think they place emphasis on? This design showing where? Okay, let's use this one. Where do you think their emphasis is on?
Love being less.
You love
Yes.
paying less.
Yes, their emphasis is on the love paying, yes, less. They want you to be able to view that. So that's why they had to now make it bolder than every other thing you can see. Same thing as this. Their emphasis on the sweetest Black Friday deal. If you check more posts, if you check more, you get to see where their emphasis is on. So as designers, right, we tend to use visual hierarchy to represent different things. Now, one of the ways you can make something more important and prominent, that you want something to drag user attention, one way you can do that is in size. So naturally, if you see something that is big, if you see something that is big, you would get to look at it very well. And then you can use size. If something is big, you want to read it first, just the way we were able to read enjoy 10%, 0% interest on your credit card first. That's what we read first. If we come further to this place, we would read the card with no entanglement first before we start to read other things. So you can use sizes to actually make your work have hierarchy. Another thing you can use is color. So just imagine a place where everybody is wearing black. So it's just like you go to a wedding and they all have ashwebi. They have ashwebi and everybody is wearing the ashwebi, and then you are coming in with jean and top. You'll be the odd one there, and everybody will be able to point you out easily because you're the strange one. So you can use colors to also draw users' attention. Another thing you can use for this, there's no visual hierarchy because they are all different colors. They are all looking important. And I've seen people design like this, right? Where they make everything look important at the same time, and which is not very good. And then another thing you can use is position. Now, people read from left to right and most times from top to bottom. So even in designs, right, they tell us that if you want to place two buttons together, let's say login and sign up, you have to put the one you want people to read first. So let's say I have, let's go back to our design, right? So our wireframe, thank God I've not deleted it. We have a register and we have a login button. Now, do you know why the register is on top? Because it is assumed that people coming through this process most times are new users. Not it is assumed, that's just it. People coming through these steps are mostly new users. So you need to put what you want on top for them. So if I am to arrange this side by side, I would get to put this one here, and I'll put the other one the other way. So you get that's for positioning. You can position contents that are most important from your left, because people tend to read from left to right, then top to bottom. You can also use different heights, right, to be able to do that. So what other way can you make something look important? Proximity. That's why you notice in designs, when you have logo, it will be by this side, like a standalone. People would look at it. Then you have all of those other ones. And so you can use grouping too to be able to make things different. You can also use alignment to make some things stand out against another. And then we have what we call the common region, right? For common region, there are elements that are perceived as group. So if they are together, or let's say you have 7 elements and you're grouping the first 4, they look like common region and all of that. So now we have to now start taking them one after the other. When we're doing our wireframe, if you remember something, I was talking about, if you look at my work, right, you notice that my work is aligned. If I bring in, so how do you turn in rulers? How do you turn rulers on? If you come to main menu and you come to view, you'll be able to see rulers, so you can turn it on for those of you that don't have it here. So if I drag this to this place, you will notice that, let me drag this to this. What can you notice? This is not my what's it called? My button is not the same size. But the next thing you can notice is they are all straight, except these ones that are in the middle. So there's something we call alignment in design. And most times for you to get good alignment, you need to use what we call the grid system. So what is a grid? A grid is a set of horizontal and vertical lines that divide the screens into rows and columns. That's what a grid is. It is very important in UI design because it's going to help your work. It's going to help you. First of all, it's going to help you align your work very well. So we've talked about it. I've already said a grid is a set of horizontal and vertical lines. So how do you turn on a grid in Figma? So we'll get to turn on a grid in Figma first before we now start talking about the other things that are so let me use this to. So first of all, for you to turn on the grid, you need to click on the frame. You need to click on the frame, and then you can see this layout grid. So once you click on the plus, like I said, you would always have it. Now remember that a grid is a set of horizontal and vertical lines. Can you see horizontal and vertical lines in this? Yes, you can. So that's a grid. Now we have different anatomy of a grid. We have the column. The column are the vertical sections of any grid. The more columns that your grid will have, the more flexible is it. Now let's look at it. For instance, you see that this is there, but if I click on this is a grid. If I click on column, I get to have just the column grid. And if you check, you can also see the count. What was it called? You can see the count here to be 5. So remember that you can have 12, but mostly on web, not on mobile. For mobile, you have mostly 6 grid system. That's it. Then we have rows. The rows are the horizontal section of a grid, How do you turn on the rows? Just the way you have column, you just need to change it to rows. And you have the rows of every grid. So these are the grid, this color, this red color. So this is the rule grid. This is rule. Let me duplicate this one and make a column out of it. And this is a column. So for the column, this is what we call the column. Let me just put it as this. Now we have another section that is called the gutters. Now, what are the gutters? The gutters are the empty space that divides your rows and columns. So these white lines is what we call the gutters. So this is a gutter. If you check, if you go back to this grid, right? If I turn on this grid, you can see that there's a gutter. But this gutter now, can you see the size of this gutter? 20. And now I can make this gutter to be 50 and it's going to increase. So basically, that's what a gutter is. And then we have the margin. What is the margin? The margin is that space that is outside of your rows and column. So this is the margin. For now, we don't have any margin on this. Do we have any margin? Can you see any margin? No, there's no margin. The margin is mostly that space outside your row and column. So for you to add margin to any grid, you just need to come here. And where you see a margin, you can see that this is 0. But if I make this margin 20, you can now have this. So this is the margin, this white line outside. Remember that it's outside your grid. The margin and this gutter, they are not the same. Let me make the margin 6. You can see the margin. Can you see that you increase the margin, but the gutter still remained? They have the same color here, but they are not the same. The margin is that spacing outside of your grid. If you look at this wireframe, right, you see that I have margins. I kept margins, although I did not measure the margin, so I don't know. So that margin is like the danger zone. So sometimes I call it the danger zone, the parts where you don't get to add any elements. So then when we're learning Microsoft Word in computer, they will tell you that when you want to type a text, it will leave some space, because if you go to print it, it will cut off if there is no space. So that's the whole concept of having a margin. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
margin helps you with white space. And then we have the modules. The modules is that area which a column and a row intersects. So you can add both row and column on one design. So remember that for this, I had to duplicate it to have another section, but generally it's not supposed to be so. I can have more than one grid on this. So all I need to do is, let me make my margin to be 20 back and got that to be 20. So all I need to do is I need to click on it and then use the plus again to add another grid. And then I can change this to rows. And I can have the rows to be 12, depending. So a module is that section in which a column and a row intersects. So that's what a module is. So why is it important to use grid? If you don't know why it's important, you might end up not using it. One of it is that it's going to give your design structure and clarity. you get to know how to organize. So the major word, the key word that you need to note is organization. It will help you to organize your work very well. It will help you to also align your work. And it will also help you to, let's say, for instance, you guys are 15 or you guys are 5 designing, your capstone project will soon be given to you. If you set your grid, even if another person is coming to design, the person knows where to start and where not to start, or where to put elements and where not to put elements. It also makes your devices responsible. If you understand grids very well, you will get to do what we call responsive designs, where you can convert from web, sorry, to mobile and all of that. So we have different types of grid. We have what we call the fluid grid. Now for the fluid grid, right, the width changes based on the screen width. The column width changes based on the screen width, while the margin and the gutter, they are fixed. So how do you get a fluid grid? So remember that the column width changes based on the screen width, while the gutter and margin, they are fixed. So what this means is that, let me remove the rule from this. What this means is that if I click on this and come to this, you can see center. This is not a fluid, but anytime you see stretched, this is a fluid. It's a fluid width. It's a fluid, sorry, layout grid. So you can see that I am increasing this. Okay, so let me use the 6. Now see what happens. Once I start increasing this, you will notice that what is increasing is just the column, but the margin and the gutter still remains the same. So this is a fluid grid. So we use fluid grid mostly for what's it called? We use it mostly for responsive design. For fluid, the margin and the column, the margin and the gutter, sorry, remains the same. It doesn't change, but the column changes. That's for fluid grid. Then we have what we call the fixed grid. Hello, you want to ask a question?
Not really. I want to take it back a bit. I'm very sorry.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get the what's it called now? The setting for the fluid.
Okay, so for the fluid, right? Anytime you see it's stretched, anytime you see this as the type as stretched, know that it's fluid. So you don't really need to make any settings. As far as it's unstretched, it is mostly fluid.
All right, thank you, ma.
And then the next grid is what we call the fixed grid. For the fixed grid, right, the column and the margin will change based on the screen size. So the column and the gutter will be fixed, but then the margin will be changed based on the screen size. So let's say, for instance, I come here and I change this to center. So you mostly use this type of grid, right? To the gutter to be 20. The gutter is still 20, and then the width. Okay. The width of this should say be 50. So the kind of grid that you do that the column and the gutter is fixed, whereas the margin will change based on screen size, what we call the fixed grid. Now, how do you use the fixed grid? I don't know if you've seen most websites where you have your login mostly in the center, and the other part you want to do a login screen and then your login follows. It's mostly for web, right? Where you have, okay, let's check login. Web, yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. Sorry. This is what I'm talking about, where you have your login at the center of your screen, where you use the fluid to design things like this. So, but the most important thing I want you to know on that grid, right, is the numbers and how it works. Now, for you to build it, we have mostly 12 column grid. When you talk about websites, we have 12 column grid. So you can see that this is a 12 column grid. This is 12, 1, 2. The column is 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you are doing a grid, now the reason why most times we do 12 is so that we can divide. It's all boils down to arrangement. If you have a 12 column grid, you can divide it into 2, you can divide it by 3, you can divide it by 4, you can divide it by 6 or 7. You can see how this is divided. So I can have an image here. I can decide to use 2 images. I can decide to make my images 3. I can also decide to make it like 4 using different sizes, 2 different sizes. And I can decide to divide it all of this way. Note that when you're designing for web, right? If I am to design for web, this is a mobile. Let me create a web frame. If I am to design for web, say for instance, this is my web frame. I am to design for this, right? Now I would always set my grid to be 12. So if I come here and I click on grid and I come back to column, my column count will always be 12 because it is web. And then most times I make my margin 100. So your margin can be 100 to 120, and my gutter, I still leave my gutter to be 20. Now, the whole essence of gutter is, this is the essence of gutter. So what this gutter does is, you don't need to, if somebody should ask you, what is the space between these three? What do you think is the space between these three? Guys, what's the space in between these three designs?
I think 4.
20. 20, the space between each 20. That's because my gutter is what? 20. If I increase my gutter to say 30 and I reduce this, I still know that without anybody asking me, I know that the space between these three is 30 pixels. The space between points A, B, and C, 30, they are all equal. So that's mostly the work of gutter. So, but my gutter, I like leaving it at 20 or 24. So if I'm designing for a website, this is what I use. That's 12, column 12. If you're designing for mobile, your column should always be 6. Your column should be 6. The count should be 6. And then margin should be 20, gutter should be 20. If you're designing for tab, your column should be 8. So just take it at 6, 8, 12. So 12, 8, 6. 12 for website, 8 for tabs, yes, and 6 for mobile. So basically, these are the numbers I want you to put in your head. So all of these things, you don't need to bother yourself on all of this calculation. Just know that when you're designing for web, this should be 12. You can, like I said, your margin for web can be as high as 150, 100 to 150, depending on, it's you that know the number of white space that you want to leave in your designs. So that number of white space is what space is what will allow you to do what you want to do. So the next thing we'll be looking at, right, is what we call text. I think, yeah, typography. So typography is also something that is very important when you talk about designs. Sorry, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Right, the next thing is typography. So typography is mostly a technique that we use to arrange our text. So how do we arrange our text when we want to start working on any file? That's what we call typography. So for typography, there are key things that you need to always put in mind about your text. Your text should be legible, your text should be readable, and your text should be appealing. Now, one thing you need to note, text is not just text. There are different things you need to put in place when trying to choose text. Now, what is typography? Like we said, it is the techniques for arranging text in a legible, readable, and appealing way when it is displayed. That is what typography is all about. Now we have what we call fonts. Now, for most of you, be thinking typography is just for graphic designers. So when we come to UI, we are gradually entering into the design part of it. So you need to use it. Now we have what we call the fonts and the typeface. A typeface is a collection of fonts. So I know that some of you, when most of you might have used Canva, you see things like not even Canva. When you use what's it called? Microsoft Word or Google Sheets, you would see font families like Roboto, numeral, yes, Times New Numeral. You see things like what other fonts that you do you know? Area and all of that. Those things are called typeface. When you want to call them, they are called typeface because they are the family. So a typeface is like the family, and then a font is a specific styling. So sometimes when you say I want to use Roboto Black, Roboto Bold, when you when you look at the word bold, that is the font itself. The typeface is a family, then the font is the style. So like you can see, Roboto and Roboto Bold. This is a font and this is a typeface. So for you to understand how the typography structure is, for any text, for any font size, fonts that you choose, you'd always get the cap height, that's the height of the text, and then you have the baseline red ends. And then for some text, right, they normally have ascendants and descendants. So what we mean by ascendants and descendants is you see some text that would go above the others. Let's take for instance Y and P. They always have something below, so that's like their descendants. While small letter H would always have small letter H. Which other fonts do we that? So anything that is after the normal height, normal X height, Anything after this X height is the ascendant. And that's
T2. Be small letter T.
small letter T. So how do you select a font? You need to know what you're designing for and how to select it. Now, first of all, we know that we have 3 types of fonts. In our basic graphic design, you might have learned that we have 3 types of fonts. We have what we call the sans serif, and these are like the common text. When I was learning graphics, one of the things they told me about sans serif, they said, if you want to design for any corporate organization, you're designing for a company, right? You always, even in their logo, you always choose a sans serif font because it is assumed that these fonts are professional fonts. Not assumed, right? It is said to be that these fonts are professional fonts. So anywhere you see the use of sans serif, just know that it's a professional font. And then we have the serif. The serif, these are fonts that you can use them for blogs and all of that. This is also corporate, but less more friendly. And then we have the scripted font. The scripted font is the font that we were advised that except there is a celebration, we should not use the scripted font. Because for scripted font, it is very hard to read, and you can't use scripted font to write large text. You can only use it to write fewer text, let's say one line thereabouts. Now, first thing is you need to pick a readable typeface. There are different typefaces in design that you can use. So if you go to Figma, how do you pick fonts? This is how you pick fonts. Sorry, this is how you pick fonts. So first of all, when you pick your text, and let's say you write Boma, if you come here, click on it, you'd see different types of fonts. Can you see the different types of fonts that we have? We have Inica. All of these ones are sans serif. No, all of these ones are serif, sorry. Inter is a sans serif. Can you see how serious it is? All these this is like a scripted font. So you get to choose fonts that are really really nice to have, mostly. So for me, if I am designing, I'll also give you some suggestions of fonts that you can use for your designs. So those kind of fonts include Poppint, Roboto, Inter. So there are different kinds of fonts that you use. I'll give you the suggestions and how you can comfortably use them. Then the next thing you need to note when trying to pick fonts is you need to pick a scalable typeface. What do we mean by scalable typeface? It means that once you start increasing the size, you can still read it. You know that there are some fonts that once you start increasing the size, you won't be able to read them. But for this type of fonts, once you start increasing the size, you'll be able to read them and it will still be nice. Then also pick a font, a typeface with a lot of weight. So when we mean a lot of weight, this is what we mean. So let's say, for instance, let's say I pick Inter as my font. Inter has a lot of weight. You can see thin, you can see extra bold, you can see light, you can see all of this. This is a whole lot of weight. And it is very important because it's advisable, even in graphic design, they'll tell you that you should not use more than 2 fonts. In UI, we use 1 font. Sometimes I use 1 font type with different weight, except I am to do a landing page, for instance, and I need to use a different font for the home, for the hero section. And then you need to pick a font that represents your brand visibility. So how many fonts do you use? Like we said, 1. You can use 1 to actually do all your design. If you have to use two, it should be on rare scenarios. Now, how do you build a type skill? We have a platform called type skill that you can use to build a type skill. Now, the first thing you always do is you have to pick a font size, your base font size. Your base font size means this is what you'll be using for your body text. So most times we use 16, we use 17. Now, Apple will tell you that you should not go less than 16 as your base font size. But then Google will tell you that you should use 17. So there's a place that I want to open. I think it's called Material Design. Material Design, I think get started. So for material design, right, you get to see, let's go to version 2. So we are in design. Yes, in design. So when you come to typography, you'd see you can be able to understand the different typography, how you'd use your header, how you can put your header 1, the size of your header 1, header 2. You can see that this is the approved size for header 1. The font is Roboto. The weight, the size is 96, and then your letter spacing is 1.5. If you come to header 2, you would see the same thing. Then for body text, if you notice, it's mostly 16. This is how Google wants you to always put your fonts. Then when you want to write captions, this is what you do. If you want to write a line, a link text, so you can see the different types of typeface and what is accepted per design. So if you come to H1, you know that in development, we have H1 to H6, that's headers. So when you're designing any product, you have different kinds of headers that you can use, which ranges from header 1, header 2 to header 6, right? And then the different acceptable sizes and the cases in which you can use them. The cases in which you can use them. Sentence case. This it will be very hard for you to use caps lock for H1. You would always use a center this, but for overline, right? For 16 or 10 pixel, you can use a capital letter and all of that. So you can also see the different platforms and their sizes. For Android, you can see the size that you should use for Android phones, the letter spacing, and how you can apply them. You can see that this is H5. This is an overline. That's when you want to have a link. And then this is the body text for most designs. You can see how it works. So always check material design to be able to check your border text and all of that. So let's go back to the book. Do you need the link or you're able to get the link? I think let me send the link. So give me some minutes. Mm. Okay, so I've sent it. So let's go to Figma and let me show you something. So sometimes this is what I do. Remember that we talked about plugins, and I said plugins are things that makes your work easy. So how do you get plugins? Most times you just need to right click, come to plugins, and you'll be able to see the different plugins. And if you saved anyone, you will get to see all the plugins that you've saved so far. So there's a plugin that I want us to use, which is called Type Skill. So type skill will help you to build text typography for you. So you just need to right click, go to plugins, manage plugins, and then you'd see type skills. So this is it. And then I just need to load it. So after loading it, all you need to do is this is the base size. So I can make my base size to be 16. And then it's going to generate the different fonts for me, starting from starting from what? From H1 to all that I want. So what skill am I using? You can see the different skills that you can use, minor second, minor this, but this is the skill. This is the golden ratio. So I'm going to use the golden ratio. The golden ratio is like the one that is accepted worldwide. So after I use the golden ratio, you can see how this is with font size 16. But I think I need to reduce it to use major third and then generate. Once you click on generate, you'd see that it has given you a type skill. That's giving you a typography that you can use for anything. The base is 16 and this is the skill. So if I want to type a H1, I can use this for H1. I can use this size for H1, that's 61. And I can do this for this and all. So I can now start creating different sections. This is for medium, I can create for bold, I can create for regular and all of that. So create a type skill with this that I just did. This should not take you up to 5 minutes. Just install that plugin. So first install the plugin, write a text, give it a base of 16, and then just generate this. Are we doing it? So let me pause the recording while we do this. So it won't take you up to 5 minutes. So the first thing to do is if you have fonts that you want to use in your Figma designs and you don't you will not see it on your Figma first of all. So first thing you need to do is you need to go to help.figma. So let's come to help. You can just use Google to say help Figma and it's going to send you to help.figma. So once it sends you to help.figma, all you need to do is you need to search for fonts. You can see it here, fonts. And once you search for fonts, you'll be able to see, get to see access your local fonts. And then once you click on it, it will lead you to where you have to install an app. So you just need to click on download the font installer. So once you click on it, it's going to lead you to Figma downloads, or you can just go straight to Figma downloads, anyone, without going to help or any of those places. So once you get there, you see that if you have the Figma app, if you're using the Figma app on your system, there's no need to download this. But if you're not using the Figma app and you're using the web like like I am using, you now come to installer. So you now click on any of them that you want to install. If you're using Mac, you install Mac. If you're using Windows, you install for Windows. Like you can see, the desktop app does not require this because you already have it in your desktop app. Now, also, you can download Figma for your phone and your iOS. So for phone, I use it to mostly check my designs. So if I'm designing, I can be looking at it on my phone to see if it's together. Now, once you're done installing it, you just need to go to your computer file, look for it, then install it, double click on it on how you install app on your system. So once you are done with it, you just need to refresh your file. So once you refresh your file, the fonts that you install on your local system would automatically show on Figma. You need to refresh. So what you need to do is after refreshing, you just double click to this place and you just pick your text. You don't need to double click, right? You just need to pick your text. Let's say this is what you're writing, and then if you come to this, you see different fonts, all fonts. You can, if you want to just work with fonts that you've installed, fonts that you've installed by yourself, you'll see it. You can see the UMIN that I just installed. It is right here. So what I want you to do is I've sent a list of fonts. I want you to install the font, Figma fonts file, and then I want you to look for all of these fonts. So you just need to type it on Google, download it to your system. Then once you're done, come to this part, fonts for you, then screenshot it. Then let me see the list of those fonts that I sent for us to download. So you can send the list of the font on the WhatsApp group chat in case network should disturb you and you go off and you can't remember the fonts. So that's it. That's it, guys. So I can stop recording so that we can start working on it. But guys, please, once we come, yeah, pause, sorry. Once we come back, just remind me to record in case I forget. Yeah.
So I was going to ask that, let's say for example, I saw a design and I want to recreate like exactly that same design, including the text and everything that they used. And so how do I know the kind of text fonts that they used?
Okay, so I have some, what's it called? There's what we call extensions, right? You can install different extensions. So there's a particular extension that is called what font. Now let's say for instance, this is Figma file, and I go to input that what font. If I click on what font and I bring my this thing down, anywhere you move on the screen is going to show you the font that was used here. Figma used the font called white. This is the name of the font that Figma used, white. So you can go to any website. Let's say, for instance, I want to know the font that was used on this website. I just need to activate that what font. Now, this is the font 3, right? I want to know what they used to write this. I'll just go what font, and you see this particular font used here is called Open Sans. Why this font is called Open Sans. Which other website do you want me to check? Let's say I go to Eyowo. I've been talking about Eyowo for a while, and I say I love their websites. Now, oh, they've taken down their websites. Oh, what other website do I love? Okay, there's a website called Beacons. I love this website, beacons.com. I love the website, and I need to know the fonts that they use. I just need to come to extension. So you can install those things yourself. You can install extensions on your laptop. I think you need to go to extensions, add extensions, and then look for what fonts. So once I bring it to this place, you can see that the font that was used here is called Poppins. So that's how I get fonts that's a platform used that I need.
All right,
So let
thank
me
you.
see how you can install it. Extensions here. I think manage extensions or visit Chrome store. So you just need to visit Chrome store. Then you just type for the extension. So the name of the extension I'm using is what font. So once you type it, you'll be able to see it. So type scan. It will also identify web fonts. It will help you copy it. These are all fonts, what's it called, that you can use. So you just need to install it, and once you click on what you want, you just see add to Chrome. Once you add it to Chrome, you can always look under your extension, you will see it. So the same thing with colors for me. if I get a particular color and I want to pick a color page. Hello?
Yes, that is another thing. I saw that you were searching for websites and probably some other apps, sha. But should in case maybe it was a picture that was sent to me, to
Works too.
it's still the same thing. So once I'm just able to click on the word font and I put that arrow on that particular text, it will bring it up. Is that what you're
So
saying?
So another thing I use, if word font doesn't work, you can see it is still that there's something called my font. So all you need to do is to click on this link, what fonts, my fonts, font springs, any of them. So once you click on it, you'll be able to paste an image. So let's say there's a text on this image that I want. I don't have any image on my laptop. Let's say there's a text on this and I upload it, right? It will be able to identify the fonts and just show me down there. So if what font doesn't work, you can use my font.com, but it's still the same. Can you see that it's what the font? So my font.com, and it is going to help you get the font from a picture.
All right, thank you.
Okay, guys, so let's install those fonts. Let me stop recording. Is there any other question before I stop? Okay, so there's no question. So we've talked about text, how you can install text, and then how you can set all of this manual process, right? This type skill, how you can just set it using the plugins. Now we'll just move straight to the next one, which is color. Okay. Okay, so then before we move to colors, right? Let's just talk about how you can align text. So you can align to the right, you can align to the center, and you can align to the left. Now there are some rules, right, when you're trying to align text with rags. So this is a kind of text that we say have rags. So after you finish writing the text, if the spacing between the last text to the end of this first one, it is not advisable that you align it like this. It will be better that you either reduce this. I think let me show us a sample with what I'm talking about. So let's say you have this text now. Let me paste it. This font. Thank you. Let me change this back to inter. So let's say I have this inter, right? And what is the last? Yeah, this is the last. For text like this, it's not advisable that you align it like this. So all you can do for you to fix this, you need to either bring this in so that the rags won't be too much. What is left won't be too much. But if you still decide to leave it like this, the best way to do it is to center align it. So that's it for trying to align. So it's better that it is spread across left and right than for the rags to be on one corner. So that's why most times you see on design, where can you get this kind of situation? You can always get situations like this when you want to design, let's say for instance, let me bring this in. You're trying to design something for web, right? And this is your text. So after having your layout grid, you can just use your lines to divide the screen, right? Bring in your lines here to get the real screen. And then you can turn this off. So let me, because sometimes this red background can actually distract you. So you can close the eye of this and you have your lines already. So say you're trying to design for, what's it called? For a homepage, and this is 61. This is 61, right? And you have this like this. Some people will leave it like this. The best thing for situation like this, you can't align it to the center because you would have to have other text here. So let me duplicate this and show us what I mean by that. And say this one is, let's say this is, and you have this like this, and this is regular. I'm sure we've seen content like this. So instead of leaving it like this, just need to bring this in instead of leaving it. So you have things like this, you have it like this instead, and you can still increase the size a bit and bring it out. If you want it to be 3 lines, you just bring it out and you've actually done your text. So you see, and then I can increase the line, reduce the line spacing a bit to say 100 and see how it goes. Or 110. And that's it. Now, another thing when it comes to alignment, right? Especially when have you seen instances like this when you have a subheading, something like our products, or yeah, our products, and our products. Let me reduce this to say 32. Our products, for instance, and you see a situation where you have something by this side, which is a read more or see all. And this is way smaller sometimes and regular. You see a situation like this. For some people, right, in situation like this, you'd see them aligned to the top. No, that is not the best way to always do it. Always align to the base of the first one. So if I want to align this, right, I will click on this and I will click on this. And then you would see alignment always align to the bottom. That's the base. You can see that this is now aligned to the base of it. Sometimes you can do center, but never do top. So for me, most times I align to the center, but the best format is to always align to the base. Okay, so basically that's it for fonts. Let's go to colors. Now, in colors, right? Colors are like what do you define color as? They are things that they are like elements that makes your designs to be fine. Now let's do this short thing. Looking at this color, right? What do you see? What comes to your mind when you see this blue? Like what brand comes to your mind? Hello?
Yes, ma. I'm here, ma.
Okay, what brand comes to your mind when you see this blue?
Microsoft.
What about this? What about this? So you can't guess anything. For this, Facebook comes to my mind. This, I think WhatsApp comes to my mind, but it might be wrong. For red, YouTube comes to my mind. For this, what brand comes to mind? This Twitter, the former Twitter comes to mind, and this, I'm just thinking what comes to mind. I'm talking about the brand now. So let's see. Yeah, I got this Spotify, Netflix, Dribble, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can see that each brand has a color that represents them, right? So one of the things you need to know, color is what makes our designs have that feel that people would see it and recognize it immediately. Terminologies of colors, we have the hue. The hue is just another word for color. So when you hear someone say, what hue are you using? Just know that you're talking about color. And then we have the saturation. For saturation, right, it is a range from pure color to gray. So what it means is saturation is I have this color, and let's say I have this, I use this color. Now, when I start reducing this color from 100 downward, it's saturation, is what we call saturation. So it's moving from 100 down to 0. That's what we call saturation. And then we have what we call the lightness. The lightness defines how bright color would be when it moves from black to white. So once you start adding, if you come to this color shade, you can see it, how it moves from black here, how it moves down to white. That's what we call lightness. Then what is shade? Shade is a shade is a color that is created when black is added. So let's say, for instance, I have this color. Where will this thing stay? This thing is distracting. Sorry. I have this color, right? I have this color. And then if I start adding black to it, that's from down here, or let's say this is the color, and I start adding black to it, the more I move, the more I'm adding black. That is what we mean by shade. And then the next one is tint. The tint is just the opposite of shade, which is this part of the screen when you start adding whites to a particular design. So basically, that's what you need to know about colors. And then we have the most important color in the world, black and white. You can never go wrong with black and white. So there's always get black and white to always work. But in product design, right, we really don't do pure black. So what I mean by pure black is if I come to this section and this is pure black, you can see it's 000. It's not advisable that you use 000 to it's not advisable that you use 000. So you should always come this way. Any other color from here is better than 000. Always avoid 000 in product design, even in normal design. Now, the reason is because it adds so much contrast, right? Your eyes, it's going to affect your eyes and all of that. So you always start with black and white wireframe before you now start thinking of how you can add more colors to your black and white. So how do you select colors? You use the color psychology to select it. You know, the color wheel where we're doing, is it basic deck or one of those courses where they tell you that you have the 3 primary color, 3 secondary color, and 3 tertiary colors. Primary colors are basically red, blue, and yellow. So these are most our primary colors. And then when you add mix two primary, when you add we now have our secondary color, sorry, orange, purple, and green. Then when you add 2 primary colors together, you now get your tertiary colors. So let's look at the color psychology for few colors, and so that you know what is going to help you to select colors. Now, one of it is blue. Blue is actually a very good color. Mostly, so many person's favorite color is blue. So for blue color, what does it stand for? It stands for calmness, peacefulness, security, trust. So what kind of platform would you use blue for? If you're trying to build social media, you would mostly use blue. If you're trying to build professional websites, most companies adopt blue as their primary color, their logo color, and all of that. And then you now have the negative side effect of blue. Blue is very popular. We have plenty companies, especially big brands that are using blue. So it will be very difficult for you to stand out as a brand, because what we did first, just looking at those colors, right? I was like, what color does this represent? What comes to your mind is top brand. Imagine you have a color that is within that line. So you see that it is hard to stand out. Then we have red. Red is a very energetic color. It easily catches your attention. We use red. Red stands for excitement, negativity, danger, energy, aggression. Now, another thing you need to note when choosing color, you need to know your geographical region. There's a country that red means peace, black means peace. But in Nigeria or in Africa, once you see red, what comes to your mind is danger. So you can use red for sports, cinema, energy-related products like energy drinks, Netflix, YouTube, all of these ones. Negative side effects, it is mostly used for warnings. So once you see red, if your brand color is red, people would think you are trying to warn them against something. So that's one negative side effect around red. And then we have the yellow color. Yellow color is also a warning notification. It also catches your attention. It's for excitement, possibility, positivity, and frustration sometimes, and anger. You best use it for food, travel, creative fields, and negative sides. It is a very bright color, so it's bad for lights. So if you just like these days, people have changed from the normal light to the white light. So there's a way yellow color is especially on that sun. It's very bad when it's excess. So you tend to avoid all of those things. And then we have orange color for creativity. Use it for energy, activity, impatience, and all of that. So I'm going to send this book so that we can go for it. So when you talk about food brand, right? Green stands for food brand, health, food, fitness, banking. You get to see green because it means success most times. It means nature. It means relaxation. It means growth. So most company use it for, yeah. Then when you talk about purple, what comes to your mind is royalty, luxury, wealth. So most tech brand use it also. So how do you pick colors, right? How do you pair colors? Pairing colors is mostly good. You pair using the complementary kind of colors, that's picking two colors on the opposite sides. So if you're using the color wheel, right, you can pick purple and orange. You can pick this and this. You can pick this and this. You can pick this and this. So it's just you using picking two colors opposite each other. That's if you want to use complementary colors. And then if you want to use analog colors, you use this is formed when you use three colors that are close to each other. And then we have the split complementary. You're picking colors that are adjacent to each other. So we have different ways, but all of these things, right? You don't really need to cram them. The best way I pick my colors, or one of the ways I pick my color, is sometimes I look at the primary color. Let's say, for instance, I'm giving a logo with, let me get a logo first. I've been doing food, so let me do food delivery logo. So let's say I get a color that I want to use. I get a logo that I want to use. Which logo should I pick now? I don't want any light. Okay, so I'll pick this. I really don't know what it's for, but let me pick this. I just want to copy it. And I bring it into my Figma. So let's assume that this is my logo. Most times, if I want to pick my color, I pick from my logo. So the best way to pick color palette is you might they have different generators that you can use to get your colors. But one of the ways I do is to first of all get my primary color. So once I get my primary color, I can now use color pickers to get different colors. Now note, it is not advisable that you have more than 5 colors. When I mean more than 5 colors, 2 is enough. Just the way one text is enough. So first step is choose your primary color. Your primary color can come from your logo. It can come from what's it called? It can come from research. So you want to do a food brand and you know that green works for food, orange works for food. You can decide to choose that as a primary color. And then you need a secondary color. That's color that can be used to complement your primary color. And then you have to choose your accent colors or your notification colors. So these colors are very important in design. One of what examples of what this color will do for you is it's going to help you display some messages to your users. Now, in the accent colors, we have 3 of these accent colors. We have a success, we have warning, and we have error colors. Now, for success, you mostly use green. For warning, you use orange, and for error colors, you use red. So after you pick all of these colors, now one thing you need to note, if your primary color is green, when you're trying to pick your success color, you use green, but you use a different shade of green so that um it doesn't affect each other. And then after you choose all your colors, you need to create tints of all your colors. So when I mean you need to create tints, you need to add white to all of your colors. And you can also add shadows. You need to also create shadows of all your colors. Now, this is going to help you to choose different colors. You can get text colors and all of that. And then you now create the gray color. So you can now do gray. You can add gray. You can pick your gray colors. So I've called how many kinds of colors. I said you should add tints after picking your primary, secondary, and your accent colors. You should create a shades of all of them. You should create a tint of all of them, and then you should create gray of all of them. Then this is the best way to apply colors, right? You apply 60% of one color, 30% of another color, and then 10% of the other colors. So this way, this is the best. So most times I use 60% of my primary color, 10%, 30% of my secondary colors, and 10% of my accent colors, because you don't need to use them at every point. So then the 60% can also be background. Most times, my 60% can be white, my 30% will be text, buttons, and all of that. And then my 10% will be those other minor colors that I just used to give your work fine. And basically that's it. This is how you can apply color. So from what we've done so far, let me show you how you can set each of these colors very well. So the first thing, right, like I said, I need to pick my primary color. So I'll get to pick up a box, sorry, and I'll draw this. And to pick color, you come to fill, right? Click on it. Then use your color picker. That's if you have a primary color. So because I already have a primary color, I'm just going to choose this, which is red. Do I want to use this? I don't, okay, it is red. After selecting it, I would come to this website called Cooler. I'm going to send the website to us. It's called cooler.co. So when I go to cooler.co, I would pick my primary color, right? I'll copy it and I'll come to cooler.co. And then I would come to this part where you have start the generator. Can you see it? I would click on it. And then after clicking on it, I'm just going to paste this. So this is my primary color. After pasting it, I'll lock it. After locking it. I just need one more color. So I can decide to remove all of this section. So I just need one more color. So after locking it, I'll just do enter. I'll just be using enter or space bar on your keyboard. So you get the color that you like, that you want to mix with it. So and one thing you need to notice, you need
Just
to be,
faster. Along with pasta was nice.
yes, that's another thing. You need to be calm. Look at the color, and then is there anyone you want me to choose from this parts? No, I don't like
No,
anyone.
no, man.
How about yeah?
This skip, man. Okay. Actually, this one is you can choose.
So remember that it's just one color I want to pick from here. So I think I should choose this one. So once you get the color, you can just use copy, just copy it and go back to your design. And I'll just duplicate this and then paste it. Control V. So I have my primary color and I have my secondary color. Now remember that we need to choose colors for notification. So the first one is green. So most times what I do is I still come to Google and I would say notification colors. Is that the real name? Yeah, these are the colors, right? And I'll just pick from Google. I'll come here and I'll paste it. You just copy and paste. So I have my green color. So I'll use my color picker to pick my green. And then after that, I'll do for my warning. So for now, right, I've never showed us how we can start saving them. But for now, we just need to pick all of this. And then I'll pick my last one. But if you notice, the red, my primary color is red. So I wouldn't want it to be battling with what I have. So I would get to like make it another shade of red so that I don't get to battle with myself. You can see. So I'm done with my notification color. Then the three most important color, which is black, I'll choose for my black. Remember that you don't choose pure black. So I'll select from somewhere here. And then your white. And then your white. White, and then your gray color, you can get to choose gray. Yeah, this is gray color. So I have all of these colors. Now remember to always make tints and shades of your primary colors. So I'll come here and I would come to plugin. I'll go to plugins and there's a color plugin. I think, do I have it here? No, I don't have it. So it's called tints and shades. So I'll just click on it and type tints and shades. Yeah, tints and shades. So once I click on it, I'll just run it over. And it's going to create tints and shades of this color for me. I think I've closed it without doing it. So come back to plugins and manage plugins. So I did not run it that time. Tint and shades. So just run it. Create from selected rectangle. And it's going to create tint and shades for me. You can see it has created tint and shades for me. Did you see that I created it under?
Yes.
That one. So I'll do for the next one. Create from selected rectangles, and it's going to give me this. So I think I'm done with tint and shades. I really don't need tint and shades of all of these ones. I just need this. So that sometimes if you want to write your text and you don't want your text to be black, for instance, you can just quickly write this and use a shade of your primary color for your text, and it will come out finer and better. So basically, this is how to select colors for your design. So remember the rules: 60 for your background. So your background colors should be 60%. Background 60. So most persons use whites as background. So just know that that is going to be 60%. And then your buttons, all of those other places will take 30%. And then these accent colors will take 10% of your designs, because you don't use them at every point. You use them when there's a notification. You use them when you need to do some other things. So that's it. So I think the next element. Now, another thing is accessibility. You know that sometimes some of us will choose, let's say for instance, just because I like this red, right? And I come here and then I want to write a text on it, and I say Boma is, let me just say Boma. You know that sometimes the color you choose, you can't even read it. Black might not be good, white might be good, or black might still be good. So one of the ways I use to check out all of these things is I go to color.co. So this is pure black, right? And this is my yellow color. I'll just copy it. The same color.co that I'm coming from. I'll come to tools and I will say contrast checker. So once you click on contrast checker, okay, so let me explain all of these tools one after the other. You can create a palette yourself. Then you can also explore different palettes. So if I click on explore palette, you would see different color palettes that you can choose from that is already set. That all you need to do is just to copy it and use it in your design. That's for color palettes. Then you can do image picker. You can select an image from your laptop or any place and pick a color. So let's say I browse this image. I like the color on my image. I like the color on this image. So you can see it has generated a color palette for me. So you can get images, you can decide to snap pictures of let's say for instance, you see like a flower and you like the flower, I can take picture of it and generate it, get the colors from the picture. So that's what that does. Then we have contrast checker. This is mostly what I do most times. Remember that our background color, if you look at this, our background color is red. I want to check if this red and black is okay. I'll just paste the red where you have the background color. And the color that we are using is black. Can you see that? It's saying it is good. Black and red is good. If that's for large text. For large text is very good. For small text, this is how it looks. But let's say I remove it from black and I go to any other color. Can you see that it doesn't work? Yeah, seeing it's very poor. Then let's see if I go to white and let's see what white gives to us. For white too, it is poor. So for you to be able to change this, you can just use this click to fix. So once I click on click to fix, I can just say you should adjust my background color for me. So can you see that it adjusted the red? So all I need to do is if I need to use black, if I need to use white, that means my red would have to change to this red. And my text will be white. This works better. So sometimes if you're confused on will this color work on this, will it not work, will it work, all of those plenty confusion, you can come to color.co and do all of those stuff yourself. So the next one is gradients. Gradient is you try to mix two colors together to come up with something perfect or something better. So for you to mix colors, you already know the kind of color that you want to mix. We have the linear gradient, that's the one I showed us in the morning. We have the radial gradient. So once you select a gradient on a particular design, once you select it, you come here, you see linear, you see real there, you see angular, you see diamond. So anyone you choose, it's just to add two colors and make it better. So there's no need spending time here too much. So give me 2 minutes, guys. So okay, so the next one is shadow, right? Shadow is a design that we use. Shadow are stuffs that we use to make our designs better. So all of these things we are talking about are elements that we use to make our designs better. Remember that website we went to? What's the name of that website? Who can remember? Material design. Which of them? Material design. We went to. Let's go to material design, to the one I sent initially. If you go to it, right, you would see different things that you can get. Components is here. So I'm trying to look for it. The color. So material design shadows. Okay, under resources, right? If you come to under resources, I think it's under resources. You'd see shadows and it's not. You can see how to add shadows, the kind of opacity you need to use. If you want a 1 dp elevation, you need to set this to 0, 0, your blot 2, and your spread to be 0. So you'd be able to see different formats that you can set your shadows. But then let's come to look at the two kinds of shadows we have. We have the drop shadow. We have drop shadow that you get to do to elevate your buttons a little or your text. You can see this is plain, but the drop shadow elevated it a bit. Now, how do you set shadows? Like I said, you have the X value, you have the Y value, you have the blur, and you have the opacity. We have two types of shadows. We have the soft shadows and the hard shadows. Now, the soft shadows is what we mostly expect that you do in your design. This is a soft shadow. Now, one thing you need to note about the soft shadows, for you to have a very good soft shadow, your blur should be very high and your opacity should be low. That is going to give you a soft shadow. Then soft shadows always have increased Y value to make it look a bit elevated. So now, how do we make that? This is a perfect example of a good shadow. So what I mean is your blur should be high, your opacity should be low, and then your Y value should also be high, and your X can be 0. So let's create some shadows, right? this is how to create shadow. So let's say I have this. Let me use this white. Let me make it pure white. You know that this white is not showing well on this platform. And I want it to show very well. One thing I can do is I'll come and I'll add shadow. Remember what I said, you use effects for shadow. And can you see that just adding shadow, it's making me see it well. I know that it's white. But for you to have a very good soft shadow, your blush should always be high. So your blush should be around 40. Then your spread should be your spread, you can give your spread any number, but this is the most important one. Your color should be around 10 or 5. And then your Y should be also big, depending on what you want. Or you can put your Y to be 0. The most important thing is your blush should be big, and your your opacity color should be low. So this is how you can create soft shadows. So this spread is like a new feature that came out on Figma. So you can play around with it to know what your spread entails. Can you see what the spread entails? The spread means how the shadow is going to spread out. So the higher your blur value, the softer your shadow is. Can you see how this elevated this out from the normal one? So let me duplicate it and show you the difference between this and the normal one. This without shadow, can you see how it is? With shadow, this is how it is. Without shadow, the shadow. So you can use shadows to make your designs pop. And also the same way, it's not advisable to have pure black 00 in your design. That's the same way it's not advisable to have it on your shadow. So that's it. Is there any question? You can also add shadows of different colors. You can add shadow of different colors. Yeah. Is there any question? Are we here? Are we here? Are we here?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So basically, there's no question. So the next thing is buttons. What are buttons in design? Buttons are like elements that make us take an action. You get to take actions with button. Now we have different types of button, we have different styles of button, and we have different buttons property. So for the types of button, we have the CTA, that's the call to action button. Just like the name, you use it to get to the next stage or the next task. Create an account. That's a clickable button. So it's a call to action. And then we have yeah, I'll share it. I'm going to share that. Now that you asked, let me share it before I forget. So I don't think we can't take buttons again for today, because it's almost 1 o'clock. So what I'm going to do here is I'll share the notes, but over the weekend I want you to read more on different. Just type okay, let me go to a page. Why this is coming up, I'm trying to look for the book. Sorry, I'm trying to look for the document itself. This is not the document, this is another one, but you can still learn something from that one. Well, I'm looking for the document to share on my phone. So there's something I want, okay. Yeah, this is it. These are principles. We've done it today. So I would want you to read all of this. And these are elements. These are all the elements you'll be needing. There are plenty. So let me just, okay, these elements. I'm trying to look for the book, the exact book. I'm coming. This one. Okay. So I need to look for. All right, so while that is going on, right? I sent something on the group chat and I want us to take time to read about that over the weekend. So it's going to give you first for colors. I want you to take time to read about color, know the color ingredients, contrast. Just type each of these on Google and research about it. Then for UI elements, we have text fields, we have buttons, we have sliders, tooltips, cards, lists, tables, navigation, all of these things. I want you to also research about it. I want you to also research about it. Yeah, so that you would get to understand where we will be going to for Monday. All right, attendance, please. You can fill in your attendance so that's. So is there any question? Any question so far? Guys, is there any question?
No.
Oh, okay.